As COVID-19 continues to wreak havoc on the global economy, the campaign for environmental cleanliness and the heightened sense of individual hygiene is also expanding. Bodies, individual and corporate, have been heeding this call, and there are many who can argue that such intervention may have been the reason the number of infection and fatalities are still where they are. Well, here in Nigeria, a campaign to promote compliance to those safety guidelines has been the obsession of our next guest. And she is?
She is Stephanie Linus, a Nigerian actress and filmmaker who has starred in more than 100 films and has received several awards and nominations for her work as an actress, which are indeed too numerous to mention, including the African Hollywood Awards, the Filmmakers USA Award for Excellence, Real Awards for Best Actress, and recently the prestigious AMVCA 2016 Award for Best Overall Movie in Africa, and the AMAA Awards for the Best Nigerian Film for her most recent work, Dry. Or DRI, Dry. Yes, correct. Indeed, Dry, indeed.
This movie.
Well, this comes after her highly successful directorial debut in Through the Glass in 2010. Stephanie was also featured in the CNN documentary 50 Years of Nigerian Independence. That same year, she joined the Hollywood A-list star Meryl Streep for an exclusive stage reading of the play Seven at the Hudson Theatre in New York City as part of the Women in the World Conference, opened by then U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Well, she is passionate about women's rights and strongly advocates against early child marriage. Through her foundation, Extended Hands, she has done extensive work in the field of vaginal fistula. This earned her the Miriam Makeba Award for Excellence in 2007 and the Beyond the Tears Humanitarian Award for her work against rape and VVF. She is currently the United Nations Population Fund Regional Ambassador on Maternal and Reproductive Health for West and Central Africa. What an introduction.
Yes, I mean, Stephanie, are you with us? Thank you so much for joining us on the morning show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Amazing accolades that you have there that Adefemi just read out to us. Well, let's piggyback on what you have been able to achieve so far. Now, you have launched this campaign, Hygiene First. Talk to us about the reception that this campaign has gotten so far.
Well, it has gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of people have reached out to me, looking for different ways how they can partner with us. And I think it's something that everyone is concerned about. This is something you talk to your friends about, your family about, because, we drive on the streets of Lagos or where we live, and we see certain things that we're not really proud of, and we're sort of like, we're looking like, what are the different ways? How can we help better our environment or the situation that we find ourselves? So it's received a lot of attention because everybody felt it was something that was in their hearts and they were looking for an avenue to really talk about it. And then seeing the video, it just kind of like, oh, Stephanie, this has been on my mind. I need to do something. I'm glad you're doing something about it. What can we do?
All right, before we go further, I know that you launched this campaign and would like to take a quick look at your message.
Okay.
When we do the same thing over and over again, it becomes more than just a thing. It becomes a habit. That habit that made you to ignore that dirty bathroom, to eat with unwashed hands, to throw trash on the streets, is definitely going to affect you, and then me, and then all of us until it becomes our problem. Every day we make different decisions that seem small at first, but have huge consequences on the quality of our lives. That change you want to see, that dirty place you wish was clean, only gets better when we all do our part. Good hygiene lowers the risk of diseases and illnesses commonly spread through viruses and bacteria. As you can see with COVID-19, making a conscious effort to practice good hygiene can actually save lives. Good hygiene will help our family stay healthy and make us feel proud of the place we call home, our state, or our nation. Practicing good hygiene is a collective responsibility we all must share. By taking the first step in the right direction and holding each other accountable, so we can all enjoy the immense benefit of a cleaner and healthier world. The Hygiene First campaign is my call to a conscious reawakening for a national culture that puts hygiene first. Today, I make the conscious decision to put my hygiene first, and I will influence my community. Will you do the same? Join us as we make hygiene first our reality.
Amazing work there, Stephanie. I think Adefemi has a question.
I do. Thank you, OG. Well, Stephanie, we've just had a look at that video, and it's definitely colourful and informative, but it also highlights there seems to be a huge gap in information across our country, where people may struggle to understand that I suppose hygiene can definitely start at home. I think it's very easy if we're looking at people who live at the bottom of our economic chain and see that if they're already living in squalor, it's not just their own identity or their own experience within their own home. It's definitely a shared experience with many people who are also living in poverty. I guess my question is, how do you continue to highlight the importance of hygiene for people who don't see it as a priority, especially when they're living in squalor already?
But that's the whole essence. The whole essence is for them to see it as a priority because it concerns you as a person, your health, and the health of people around you. So what we're looking at is what is in your power? What can you do as an individual to actually help yourself and your environment? And if you're doing the right thing and everyone is doing the right thing, automatically we're holding each other accountable. We're looking at, okay, our environment is bad. What can we do? You know, there's a role the government is definitely going to play, but we want that conscious awakening in our soul, in ourselves. I mean, we've seen, it's not even about the bottom level. We're seeing in different places, even some, places that you don't even expect, and you walk in and, you feel that they don't really consider their hygiene as a priority. Right. The main thing, there has to be a cultural shift. There has to be like a mental shift of how we see ourselves as a people. How we see my environment, how I see my life. You can see that with COVID, just like I said in the video, just by practicing little things can actually help save your lives. So how hard is that? So by the time you are conscious of it, automatically you are conscious of your environment, and then you will notice that your environment is dirty. Then you walk towards making it conducive for you to live in, or approaching the right people to say, we can't live in this area, there's something that needs to be done. So the main thing is elevating our minds to actually know that we deserve better and that we should actually strive to get, to better our society. I'm sure a lot of you saw the viral video of the guy who was washing fruits from the gutter or something, washing his fruits, in the gutter. And to me, I saw that, I was so shocked because I just felt there's something fundamentally wrong with the way we see ourselves as a people, because definitely this is someone who does not consider his own hygiene, then he's not going to consider you as a person. So, but the whole essence is to reawaken that consciousness for people to know that it benefits you to do these basic things. It doesn't take rocket science. So it benefits you, and it's your own personal decision that you need to change. If you're driving in a car and you throw away trash from the car, it's not government, it's you as an individual who has made that conscious effort to do that. You can also make a conscious effort not to do that. So those are some of the things. And it's not for us to even get angry, it's for us to educate people, show them the things that they're doing, and also show them in better ways in which they can do it, and the benefits that is going to come out from that when they do it.
I'm so happy that you mentioned COVID-19 and the fact that it's definitely boosted awareness to personal hygiene. For weeks and for months, we've been talking about the importance of something doing so simple as washing your hands. Mm-hmm. And even though that, I guess, brings up other types of difficulties people may have, if you don't have access to running water in your home, maybe a little more difficult for you to wash your hands. But then there's also the solution of perhaps if you're drinking water in sachets, you can definitely use those very same sachets to clean your hands. So I wanted to ask you, what role do you think COVID-19 has done to further this agenda you have to promote the importance of hygiene?
I think the timing was key because I think people have never seen this kind of thing before. So I think it kind of like opened them up to like, okay, I think maybe we should actually listen. But I also don't want it to be like the case of Ebola. You know, when Ebola came, people were in such a frenzy, washing their hands, and at the end of the day, they went back doing, went back to their lives, doing the same thing, but had to drive this message so that it becomes like a cultural habit, the thing that we do. So when we continue to do this thing, it becomes a habit. You don't think about it. It becomes something that you do. And then when situations like this, like COVID, come up again, you're not going to be thrown off guard. You're like, okay, I'm doing the right things. You won't be surprised, but you're prepared. It's more like preparing yourself. And it's not only COVID. There are other communicable diseases that affect people, kill people every day. And just by practicing your basic hygiene, taking care of your environment, you find out that you spend less time going to the hospital or getting sick or all kinds of things. So it's that conscious awakening, because the conscious awakening of us being aware of our environment, of us being aware of the other person, that if you use a space, that somebody else is going to use that, considering the other person. I think it will even help with our maintenance culture, because here in Nigeria, we complain all the time that we don't have good maintenance culture, but it's just these basic things that we overlook that is why we don't have maintenance culture. Because if your hygiene is good and you're taking care of yourself, your family, automatically if you find yourself in the workplace or wherever you work or whatever thing you're doing, you will apply the same principles to your work, to your job, to your environment or wherever you find yourself. So the main thing is to drive this message, let it become a thing that we do, so that in Nigeria, we don't, when you think about Nigeria, it's, oh, that dirty place. But it's for us to be conscious and systematically and strategically know that this is paramount. This is important for us to do that, and better our environment. You live in places you don't even see any green spaces, you don't see any trees. I see some estates, they build it, there's no single trees, there's no park, there's nothing. So we're not conscious about those things and why we should have those things. So those are some of the education that we want to bring down to everybody, down the chain, to be able to break down this information for them to understand.
Very good, Stephanie. Now, you're campaigning to drive this message. Are you thinking of taking this campaign to the national level? Are there any organizations that you would like to incorporate this message? Say, for instance, schools or, government agencies. Talk to us about that.
Oh, yes. There've been a lot of people have approached us. They want to partner with us. Like I said, it's a national campaign. So it's something that we're going to take nationally across Nigeria. And we have various different programs that we've broken down on how we're going to approach it to make it hip and fun, and people will feel the need to participate. And so, yes, there's a lot of, I'm talking with government agencies, and some of us, we're trying to some of them we're trying to finalize how we're going to work together, because definitely you're going to work with government. Some corporate organizations are also contacting us and trying to do something, how they can work with us with what we're doing. And in case you also want to reach out, you can reach out to us at hello@myextendedhands.org. That's how you can actually reach us or reach me in case you're trying to figure out how to participate with our program. So there's been a lot of people that we've been talking to, and they've seen the need to actually drive this message and see how we can achieve the sustainable goals that we all hope that Nigeria will be a better place, nice green places, a place that we're all proud to call home.
Absolutely. I mean, it is a great message. So naturally, I don't think either of us are surprised that there's so much notoriety and so much effort for people wanting to join in on this journey with you. But if we were to talk about My Extended Hands, has it always been quite straightforward? Has it always been easy to garner the support, or have there been difficulties in getting to this point?
I think in terms of the hygiene, because Extended Hands does a lot of things. We do, I do a lot of work on maternal health, especially with fistula repair. I'm sure you saw the movie Dry that helped to create awareness when it concerns maternal health situation that we've done. So we've done a lot of advocacy work and awareness campaign in that area. So in terms of the campaign with this, I think it's more of we deciding to, I think They're playing something?
Yes,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Yes, you can talk.
Yeah, so okay, I can talk. Okay. See, it's like with this film has achieved a lot of things. You know, we've screened it in Gambia, and they banned child marriage in Gambia. In Nigeria, we've also translated it in different languages: Hausa, Igbo, Yoruba. And we screened it in Borno State. We screened it in Sokoto, and we've had lots of tremendous discussion with young people, really seeing the need to do things differently, to also confront their parents and say maybe you should change some of the practices that you guys are doing. So it's been quite impactful, and we had a lot of I worked with this with the UNFPA, and we're hoping to go around all the states in Nigeria, you know, showcasing this work and also making sure that the maternal health situation in Nigeria is improved. And one of the goals we have in Extended Hands Foundation is to build a world-class fistula hospital, because the goal is to eradicate fistula in Africa. So coming to the Hygiene First campaign, yeah, it's challenging, but I think if you have an idea, you also want to make sure that you see the idea come to fruition. And I think I just said, I need to just throw myself out there. If you don't throw yourself out there, who's going to do it? I'm not doing it for anything. I'm doing it because I'm in Nigeria. I'm doing it because this bothers me. I'm doing it because I've had discussion with a lot of people. And if you just don't take action, what is going to happen? So I think it's time for action. It's time for us to stop complaining. It's time for us to see what can we do as citizens of this country to better our country. You know, it's not for you to complain. Citizens, participate, make sure you have the country that you wish to have, and just put yourself out there. I think that's what I did with this particular thing, to address some of these issues that we talk about and see how we can improve our country.
Stephanie, amazing work that you have been doing so far with, gender-based violence and the advocacy that you've just mentioned with dry and fistula. Yeah. Now, with the rise and spate of rape cases in Nigeria, I'd like to hear your assessment of the country's response to this pandemic, because at this point, that's what we have described it as, a pandemic. I'd like to get a comment from you regarding that.
We expect more from the government at this stage. I mean, this has been going on for years, and I think it's time that the government look at the laws that have been put in place and to make sure that they're more stringent than what we have right now. So there has to be some consequences for you not to just wake up and say, oh yeah, I want to go rape someone. And also there's something that is constantly missing, and we're hoping to do something about that, is the information that needs to be passed to especially young girls and also young boys. If you're raped, what do you do? I think sometimes we mix those kind of conversation, because a lot of people don't even know the steps to take. Okay, if someone threatens me with rape, what do I do? Because I had a young girl who called me and said, oh, my neighbor said, you this girl, if I catch you one day, I'm going to rape you. I mean, this is not something you just say to people. So in my head, I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to tell this girl? So I even froze at that point. I just said, okay, find the nearest police station and make this report so that they know that someone like this in your compound made this kind of statement. But you just hit me that a lot of people don't have the information that they need. They don't have the numbers to call or who to call. You know, sometimes you see all these different numbers, they're so long, you can't even cram it. If someone is traumatized, how would they even remember the number? So there's no process being broken down. This is a process that needs to be broken down, that no matter where, even if you're 5-year-old, you're 10 years old, you should be able to know if this happened to you, this is what you're supposed to do. This is who you're going to call. This is where you're going. And there has to be, parents also need to be more, parents I say in terms of also be watchful with your kids, you know, things that are happening, make sure you participate, make sure you're very watchful, and also listen to them, especially when they complain or when they say someone has done this to me, and make sure that you follow the process through. So there's the different levels to this thing. The government needs to make sure that the laws, these people, when you're raped, you're being prosecuted, and also the information passed down to the individual. If you're raped, this is what's going to happen to you, or this is how you prevent rape from happening to you. So those are the information that we need to really pass down and make sure that people get it.
Still on the topic of rape and sexual violence, we agree that definitely more needs to be done when it comes to deterrence. And we know that as it stands in Nigeria, I think the maximum term for rape is 14 years. And people are aware that there is a process. But I think that when we talk about deterrence and moving away from bad behavior, there's always the conversations about punishment and crime, and that's absolutely a good thing. But obviously, fear of punishment and fear of conviction hasn't stopped this pandemic from continuing to happen when it comes to sexual violence and rape, most especially here within Nigeria. So I wanted to ask you, is there any work you're doing, or is there anything you can prescribe in terms of the preventative measures? Because what it takes is an unwiring, an unplugging, and a rebuilding of people to understand the protections that need to be afforded to the girl child and to the boy child. The fact that we have to unlearn this systemic need for not attaching value to women or to young people. What do you think needs to be done in terms of a preventative measure here?
It's like the education and information. Also, we need to start talking to young people early enough. Now it looks as if it's the time. If, to give that education, if someone is touching you here, or someone is doing this, or someone, because sometimes you find out that it's even people who are close to you, or
Absolutely.
they actually do that. So if your uncle touches you here, so you as a parent need to also educate your kids right from time, like if they touch you here, or do this, give them the safe place for them to come and complain and tell you this person is, and listen, because sometimes it looks as if we don't listen. There's some people, when you hear, oh, this person raped me, we sort of like block, like you can't believe it. Maybe if you hear it's your uncle or it's your something, you're like, no, I know this family member, and you're shocked and you don't want to believe it's at his parents. I think parents need to listen to their kids more. And another thing that they need to do, it's also to shame these people and also elevate, give the information. Like if someone is convicted of rape, people should know. I mean, they should know and hear that a lot of people are being convicted about that. Because what we hear is, I'm being raped, I'm being raped, I'm being raped. But we don't see, oh, this person that raped this person, he got this, he got this. I think when people see more of people who have been, locked up, I think that will also, on the level at which we're hearing people being raped, that will also help people understand that, well, government is taking action, people are being convicted, so you better think twice and do that. And also, like I said, give people information on the steps to take when they find themselves in such situation. That step needs to be broken down for everybody to understand.
Now, Stephanie, as we wrap up this conversation, we're not going to let you go without highlighting your amazing work that you've done with Nollywood. And, with COVID-19, I'd like your comment about how Nollywood has been coping with COVID-19. And, I know also that Netflix just greenlight about 7 movies and series. Talk to us about that. What is the fate of Nollywood with COVID-19?
Well, I think it's challenging, I think. I think our industry is... It's sort of like, it's going to be hard a little bit in the sense that, as an actor, you just like you're doing social distancing now, it's easy for this kind of job. But in terms of making a film, you can't shoot the other person in this side and the other person. They have to be in the same space to actually make that happen and be realistic. So it's going to be difficult, but I also think we're going to adapt in the sense that you adhere to the rules, make sure the people that you put in the production, that everybody's safe and everybody's adhering to, the rules that you set on the set. So it's just for us to adjust, and it's a great thing that movies are being commissioned, which is, we need more of that, and we also need more of our work to be protected and more channels to actually exhibit our work. So, but I think we're just going to adjust and find a way to continue our business.
How do you think the entertainment space has changed over the course of your career? I know that recently, or perhaps I shouldn't even say recently, but Nollywood is so encompassing of all of the different cultures and the different languages spoken in Nigeria. In the north of our country, we know that is it Kannywood? They're calling it Kannywood, like films are being made and told, stories are being told in the north of Nigeria, which, as far as my experience has been told, wasn't something that was really put to the forefront. So over the course of your career in the arts as an actress, how do you think the Nollywood has changed and developed?
Oh, we've changed in terms of the quality of our films, in terms of the stories that we tell, we've changed quite a bit. I remember when I did Through the Glass, which was the first movie that broke the box office in Nigeria, and the movie that made people to start going to the cinema to watch Nigerian film. So before, people were watching the films in their houses, and that era made a lot of, that made a lot of producers say, oh, if Stephanie can do it, I can actually do it. We can actually go to the cinemas and make money. And we've seen Nollywood go through those hurdles from there to the cinema, and, we're seeing the streaming networks, platforms that are coming up, and there's been a lot of change, and technology is moving. Technology, I think, is changing everything. So I think we're kind of like chasing after technology, really. Technology is changing everything, and we're trying to adapt to it. So, but there's been a lot of changes, and but now also, more importantly, for filmmakers, is for us to really go back to the drawing board and be very sensitive about the kind of movies that we put out there. I'm advocating. I mean, we've seen with everything happening in the world, there's a need to also showcase a lot of Black excellence and be very tactful and very strategic in the kind of stories that we put out about ourselves. So it's very important for us to keep that at the back of our head every time we create a content, because we know that this is a whole representation of us, and this is a representation of ourselves, or how we want to see ourselves, or how we want the world to see us.
Right. I know that also that you have been an advocate for film for a while now. I know that you started off with New York Film Academy, and now you have a program called Del York, correct? Talk to us about that.
Del York Creative Academy.
Yes.
Oh, well, that's my husband. Well, he's going to be on the show. Maybe you guys invite him on the show to talk about this, because he's the CEO of the Creative Academy, and he's the one running the program, and he has done a lot of fantastic job training thousands of people here in Nigeria. I see some of his students who have gone to work. I'm sure maybe some of them might be working in your radio station, your TV station. Those are some of our students who have gone on to work in different companies in Nigeria. And he's planning a lot of big things right now. I think they're launching an online platform. So we're taking the COVID, so he's adjusting. So he's launching the online platform for people to learn online. They can get that at www.theyorcreativeacademy.academy. So people who want to register to be actors, filmmakers, you can actually access the program online. So he's been doing a lot of work about that. So maybe with time you can invite him to talk more about it.
Stephanie, I wanted to, again, look at your career. It's definitely inspirational, aspirational. You mentioned Through the Glass, which came out back in, is it 2008? 2009. Mm-hmm. And that, if my research leads me correctly, it had a budget of less than $200,000, but was able to break the Nigerian box office. What do you think was different about that film, and why do you think the Nigerian audience reacted to it in the way it did?
Do I really know? I think, well, maybe it's a combination. I was studying directing, and I told myself, you better not come back to Nigeria without showing them something. They're going to eat you raw. So I did this little film. It was a fun film that I did. And the reception was really great in LA. When we screened it in LA, we had a lot of people who came out to watch it, and I think the buzz started from there. And then and the quality was good compared to other quality of films that were out there in Nigeria. And when we came to Nigeria, people were ready to receive it, and people liked it. And I'm so glad with that film. It opened a lot of doors for other people. I mean, a lot of films have come to the box office, made much more money, and the cinema culture, was started becoming vibrant in Nigeria. So it's been quite interesting. And then doing Dry also, that's a different style too. I think it got a lot of filmmakers who also think about doing socially conscious movie, that you can actually do it in a fun and hip way, and it can be impactful. So I thrive to do things. I look at situation and then find out, okay, what is the next thing? Where are people not looking at? What can I do in that space, and how can I make it happen?
Right. And since you've been such a huge advocate for gender-based violence and gender-based information out there, are you planning on making any film that would that I will go there?
There's a lot of oh my God, there's a lot of film that is on the pipe. I have about 3 projects on the pipeline. Right. One is, Doctors Without Borders invited me to come to Italy. That was like 2 years ago, to come on board their ship to meet a lot of girls who were being trafficked. And I went to Italy and I went to meet some of those girls, and I just felt, okay, this is one project that is calling me. So you won't be shocked when you see a human trafficking movie from me. So I went there to Italy to see those girls, and my heart was broken with the stories that I heard. And some of the movies that I've seen out there, I just feel there's a fundamental thing that is missing, and I think maybe that space is waiting for me to actually address that, because I've watched a lot of films and they're still not addressing that part of what I feel that should be addressed. And so hopefully we're going to be working on that. That's a historical piece that I'm working on women's rights. That, you know, when they talk about women's rights, they forget that African women actually started this whole women's rights thing. So I'm going to be doing something on that and, you know, showcasing that. Just like when I go to the US, or people ask me, oh, you're a woman, you're a director, how are you feeling intimidated? I'm like, no, we don't think about that in Africa. You know, if you're able to, if you think about something, you don't think, I'm a woman, I can't do it. We just go ahead and do it, you know? Yeah. So I need them to also understand that this whole women's rights African women has been on the forefront of this, and there's also a romantic comedy that I'm working on. So there's a lot of projects on the pipeline, and definitely you're going to be seeing some of those work very soon. The COVID kind of like slowed down a couple of things for us, but yeah.
I know COVID-19 has done a menace on us. Now, I'd like for you to walk us through that experience when you were, you know, going through the girls that were being trafficked, because I did see a lot of posts online about that. I'd like for you to walk us through that process. What happened?
Wow, it's something that we've seen over time. I know I've seen it even when I went back and I saw one of the movies, you know, as a student. One of the projects that I did was on human trafficking back in the days at school. So it was just hearing their stories, because they're different kinds of people, the people who knew what they're going for and the people who didn't know. And also seeing how naive a lot of them were and how innocent, you know, that they are. There's some who knows, okay, I'm going to do this, but they didn't understand the magnitude of what they're going to encounter, even if you didn't know or even if you think you knew. So it was really heartbreaking, and it doesn't reflect good on us, because it's usually this. Well, Nigeria is on the forefront. When they talk about human trafficking, Nigeria is the first country that they need to call. So it becomes really bothersome. It's bothersome in the sense that you have to do something about it, because you can go to Europe and you're having your holiday and they think you're one of those girls. So you find out that you can't even escape it. Do you understand? Whether you're not trafficked or you're just having a holiday, that whole label is being put on all of us. So what do we do? How do we change the label? So that's most of the fundamental questions that I usually ask. How do we change the narrative about us? What do we put out there for the world to understand where we're coming from, so you don't judge us so harshly? And what do you also need to do here to make sure that a lot of young people don't feel the need to travel abroad to look for greener pastures? So the government also need to look into what they're doing, how they're empowering the young people, what are the opportunities that they're providing for them, how they're creating the enabling environment for them. So there's a whole lot of discussion that needs to happen. But for me as a filmmaker, also how do I shine light, and how do I bring awareness, how do I bring attention, and how do I create a movement that help people understand or help people appreciate themselves much better, us as Africans and Black people especially. So it was really heartbreaking, and I just felt that there's something that I need to do in this space.
Stephanie, I wanted to ask you about your personal experience, perhaps with racism. I'm so happy that you mentioned how great it is to be Black and to be African, because those are fantastic things. And at a time where there's so much hatred and so much action at the same time, lots of people fighting for racial injustices to end, fighting for restructuring of institutions that have continued to uphold racism. Have you ever experienced racism outside of Nigeria in your work as an international actress and in directing? And I wanted to ask you how your success continues to put Black excellence at the forefront, and how you're able to do more of that.
I haven't experienced any kind. I don't even recognize it, so maybe that's it. So that's the thing, they might be racist to you, but you don't understand it. So, but I think there's a fundamental role that Nigeria has to play. Nigeria has the ability to liberate the Black race. And Nigeria needs to stand up to that opportunity that's been given to us. We call ourselves the Giant of Africa. What are we Giant of Africa for? So that's great if we came to that understanding that we as Nigerians have a huge role to play when it comes to we as Africans or black people. I hope they just scrap this whole, you black, white. I hope that, terms get to, people should stop using that. But as Africans, Nigeria has a huge role to play. So that's I'm saying that we need to come into that consciousness of what role, how do we become a strong nation? Our diversity is our strength. And I think sometimes when I look at our leaders, I feel so sad because we have such great potential in ourselves where different people bring different things. So draw all of this power to create one great nation. We have tribalism facing us in Nigeria that we haven't even addressed as a nation. So I think when we start addressing that and how we value ourselves, people will see us like that, So what I'm focusing on Nigeria is that we have a huge role to play. We need to be that nation that, a black or whoever black person in the world can say, oh, I see Nigeria, I get them, they're standing, they're doing the right thing. So we have a huge role to play in terms of that. And also filmmakers, that's why I'm saying that now is a time for us to be very tactical, very conscious about what we put out there about ourselves, how we want to be represented and how we want to be seen. Because all these things that we've seen is all subtle things that you don't see, but you have to just step back and look at all the little things and how you need to address them and how you need to present yourself, even for the younger generation that is coming. So I haven't really experienced racism, but I think it's time for America or any other parts in Europe for people to really look out and address the issue. This has been going on for years. I don't think people say they hate white people, but they've done a lot of things that they need to really apologize. When you say you're sorry, just a simple saying that you're sorry can actually make people people just want you to accept that you've wronged them, and then they can give you the forgiveness from their heart, and you being truthful about that. Because at the end of the day, we saw with COVID is cleaning everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're white, you're black, you're Christian, you're Muslim, it's doing all of that. So I think it's time for them to really address the issue and look at it wholeheartedly and meet these people where they're complaining. And Nigeria, you need to rise up as a country that is filled with so much potential that you're not using, a country that will be the pride of every black person. So we have a huge role to play as Nigerians. And Nigerians, it's also time to also help people in African Americans, because we also need to, the fact that they're fighting for their rights is something that we should admire. Because if we had little of that in this country, maybe we wouldn't be going through the situation that we have right now. So it's something that we should admire, that they are actually out there fighting for their rights. And this is something that we should, on our own here in Nigeria, also demand that certain rights that we have or our country should be better, and not to be afraid. A lot of people are just afraid. We're just, nobody wants to, everybody just, okay, and it's been going on for generations to generations. So I hope this new generation, we actually see the need to, step up and do something better.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. It's amazing that you say that you don't even recognize racism, but I'm sure a lot of other Nigerians do share that same notion with you as well. Well, we wish you all the best with Hygiene First and your campaign. I hope that we get to see you here again on the morning show soon.
Okay, thank you for having me.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right.